The market is repeating history, and not in a good way. As Bitcoin surpasses $100,000 in 2026, the old financial rulebook is broken. Prices are at levels that should trigger celebration, yet the crypto fear and greed index is flashing 26. That's not caution, it's palpable fear. I know what that looks like. It's the exact environment where the average investor gets wiped out. The same game is being played again, and the rules are changing to your disadvantage. But what if you could stop playing their game and start playing yours? What if you had a framework that turned this fear into your single greatest advantage? In this video, I'm laying out the 3 simple data-backed rules the top 5% of investors are using to ignore the noise, protect their capital, and build real wealth. These are the rules 95% of the market will ignore, and they will pay the price. Stick around, because the third rule is what separates those who lock in profits from those left holding the bag. Before we dive in, let's be clear. This is not financial advice. This is an educational framework to help you build your own strategy in a game where the old rules no longer apply. Always do your own research. Rule 1 seems simple, but most people get it backward. You accelerate your buying when the market is terrified. The fear and greed index is at 26. The average person sees that as a signal to run for the hills, to panic sell or freeze, too scared to invest. This is a monumental mistake. For a disciplined investor, an index reading below 40, especially below 25, isn't a warning. It's a dinner bell. It's a green light. This isn't about vaguely buying the dip. It's about a systematic, unemotional plan to accumulate an asset when it's psychologically on sale. This is where dollar cost averaging, DCA, becomes your superpower, but with a twist. Standard DCA is fine, but the top 5% use a dynamic DCA strategy guided by data. Here's the framework. When the fear and greed index is in extreme fear, 0 to 25, you increase your standard purchase perhaps by 50% or more. This is the zone of maximum conviction, where institutional players are quietly building positions while retail investors panic. When the index is in fear, 26 to 40, where it is now, you deploy your standard full allocation. This is your steady accumulation pace. Then, as the market moves into neutral or greed, you protect your capital. You stop chasing the pump by dramatically reducing or even pausing new investments. Why does this work? Because high Bitcoin prices combined with low market sentiment is a powerful signal. It indicates the price isn't driven by short-term retail FOMO, but by disciplined institutional capital, real demand. While the 95% wait for reassuring headlines, the smart money has already built its foundation by buying the fear. By the time the game feels safe, the top 5% are preparing for the final rule, taking profits. So, your first move is to audit your buying strategy. Don't let fear paralyze you, let it be your guide. Create a written plan for a dynamic DCA and execute it, no matter what the talking heads are screaming. This brings us to Rule 2, which addresses the most portfolio-destroying mistake in 2026. Treating Bitcoin and altcoins like they are the same thing. They are fundamentally different assets, and if your portfolio doesn't reflect that, you're playing a rigged game. During a bull run, the siren song of a 100x altcoin is deafening. I get it. People see tokens with flashy stories making insane gains and pile in, allocating far too much to hyper-speculative assets. This is a ticket to financial ruin. The reality of the 2026 market is that the risk between Bitcoin and altcoins has completely diverged. Bitcoin is being adopted by Wall Street, with massive ETF inflows solidifying its role as a global reserve asset. Altcoins, meanwhile, face serious headwinds. Data shows that altcoin seasons are shrinking, with rallies that once lasted months now fizzling out in weeks. You can no longer buy a handful of altcoins and pray the tide lifts all boats. That game is over. The rule is this: your portfolio must be anchored by Bitcoin. Here is a data-driven allocation framework for 2026. A conservative portfolio should be at least 80% Bitcoin, 15% Ethereum, and no more than 5% in other altcoins. This strategy captures the primary upside from institutional adoption while minimizing exposure to speculation. A moderate portfolio could be 60% Bitcoin, 25% Ethereum, and 15% altcoins. This offers more exposure to potential runners while keeping a strong Bitcoin core. Even for the most aggressive investor, your altcoin allocation should not exceed 30% of your crypto holdings. A 40% Bitcoin, 30% Ethereum, and 30% altcoin split is the absolute ceiling. Within that altcoin bucket, you need strict rules. First, they are tactical trades, not long-term holds. Set firm profit targets, and when you hit them, rebalance those profits back into your Bitcoin anchor. Second, don't chase narratives. The 2026 market favors real utility, like tokenization and infrastructure, not the meme projects of the past. If you can't see a clear path to institutional interest or a real-world use case, it's a gamble. The 95% will ignore this. They'll chase the next shiny object and get burned when the momentum window slams shut. The top 5% build a fortress with Bitcoin and use altcoins as tactical tools, not as a foundation. We're about to cover the third and final rule, the one that decides whether you actually realize the wealth you're building. But first, let me know in the comments below. What is your current Bitcoin versus altcoin allocation? Is it 80-20, 60-40, or something else? There's no judgment here, just a community trying to navigate this new world together. And if this breakdown is opening your mind to a new set of possibilities, do yourself a favor and smash that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. This is the final and most crucial rule. It requires the most discipline. Rule 3 is you must sell based on a predefined plan, not your feelings. Everyone dreams of buying low and selling high, but almost no one does it. Why? Because they never define what high is before they get there. They get swept up in euphoria. When the market is in extreme greed and prices are vertical, selling feels like a mistake. Then, when the market turns, panic takes over and people sell to stop the bleeding, locking in losses at the worst possible time. The rule is to create a selling framework that is completely unemotional. First, define what you will not sell based on. Scary headlines. The current market proves headlines and price are often disconnected. Short-term dips, price swings of 10 to 20% are normal in crypto and designed to shake you out. Your altcoins crashing. Don't let your speculative bets dictate your core Bitcoin strategy. Instead, you only sell when specific predetermined conditions are met. These are your signals. When the fear and greed index hits extreme greed, 80 plus. This is your primary indicator that the market is overheated. Here, you begin to DCA out of your positions, systematically selling a small percentage as long as the market stays euphoric. When your price targets are met, before the market goes wild, write down your targets. For example, decide to sell 25% of your Bitcoin when it doubles, taking your initial investment off the table. The rest is house money, which dramatically reduces emotional attachment. When your life requires it. If you need the money, sell, but have a plan. Sell speculative assets first and your core Bitcoin position last. This is the hardest part of investing. It forces you to act against every human instinct. You have to take profits when friends are getting greedy and the news predicts unimaginable highs. But this is how generational wealth is secured. The 95% ride the wave up and all the way back down. The top 5% have an exit plan, and they execute it with ruthless discipline. Let's recap the 3 rules that 95% of the market is ignoring in 2026. Rule 1. Master your entry. Use fear as a signal to buy with a dynamic DCA strategy. Rule 2. Get your allocations right. Build your fortress on Bitcoin using altcoins as tactical tools. Rule 3. Know your exit. Sell into market euphoria based on a pre-written, data-driven plan, not into fear. Look, predictions for 2026 are worthless without a behavioral framework. These 3 rules aren't a prediction. They're a system. They are your defense against panic and your tool for capitalizing on opportunity. By following them, you separate yourself from the herd. You stop being a forced seller and become a strategic accumulator. You stop being a victim of volatility and start using it to your advantage. This is how you don't just survive 2026. This is how you thrive.